George Dunn's original statement to police implicating 𝐭𝐸 was not permitted as evidence in court, nor did he give evidence at the trial in person. But should he have even been tried in the first place? The barristers are meeting with Consultant Forensic Psychiatrist, Dr. Sohom Das.
Well, Dr. Das, thank you very much for coming to help us with the case. What I'd like to ask you about is the role of George Dunn. Now, George Dunn was a man in his early 20s, but he was assessed as having a mental age of 8. Now, how would that translate in terms of learning difficulties?
I also read in the documentation that he had an IQ of 57.
Right.
So to me, that would indicate that he has a learning disability, a very low level of overall functioning and independence.
Could someone with a low IQ be more inclined not to tell the truth merely because they have a low IQ?
I don't think that having a low IQ in itself would make somebody want to not tell the truth, but they would not be able to judge a social situation or judge the consequences of telling the truth. Somebody with such a low IQ could be quite easily misled or could be pressurized into saying something. And I think somebody like yourself or myself might know that the evidence is so overwhelming that they have to tell the truth, whereas somebody with a low IQ might not recognize that to the same degree.
What about the temptation to protect one's own interests?
Sure.
At the expense of someone else?
So my answer to that would be no. I don't think they're more likely to do it, but they're less capable when they try to do it.
They're not such good liars if they decide to lie.
Exactly. As an 8-year-old would be.
As an 8-year-old wouldn't be.
In one of the reports that was drafted in 1952, it stated George Dunn knew what he was charged with, that he understood the meaning of the term not guilty, but because of his lack of intelligence, his grasp of the whole situation was very imperfect, and that he didn't have the concentration and the acuity of mind which would enable him to follow and understand clearly the process. In modern terms, that means he wasn't fit to plead, doesn't it?
I absolutely agree, and I have read in some of the documentations that some of the doctors that assessed him found him fit to plead.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. I think that, as you outlined yourself, the evidence suggests that although superficially he might have been able to say guilty or not guilty, and maybe have a very basic understanding of what that meant, I don't think he'd be able to understand the deeper concepts behind it. And as you say, I don't think he'd understand the court process, so I think he's unfit to plead.
Thank you very much. It's been very interesting talking to you.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.